The real reason you can't focus probably isn't stress or burnout. It's dopamine. I mean, it quietly controls your motivation, your energy, and even how long you can focus. But when you don't learn to manage it, you will likely continue to feel distracted and drained, no matter how hard you try to focus. But when you do take control of it, you can actually work faster, stay focused for longer, and not end your day feeling completely drained. And so in this video, I'm going to break down exactly how dopamine works, how it affects your ability to focus, and how you can look to take control of it so that you can start working with your brain instead of against it. So firstly, let's look at what dopamine actually is. And dopamine is essentially your brain's motivation chemical. And it's that thing that tells you when you do something, whether that thing feels good and whether it's something that you want to do again. And I think the easiest way to think of it is imagine that your brain has a dopamine tank. And when it's half full, that is like your normal motivation level. So that is your baseline level. And how it works is that every time you do something that's theoretically fun or rewarding, like checking your phone or eating some rubbish food or winning a game, your dopamine spikes above those baseline levels, and it might spike really quite high up. But what goes up must come down. And here's the catch. When you do some of these fast dopamine rewarding type things, it will then drop below that baseline level. And that's why you might find if you're scrolling your phone for 20 minutes or so, after you've done that, you might actually feel a little bit rubbish, because what's happened is essentially that your brain has overspent its dopamine levels and you are now running a little bit on empty. But here's the good news. When you focus on more healthy habits, so things like exercising or pursuing a meaningful goal or just doing something that is a little bit difficult, those things also will raise your dopamine levels above baseline, but they will do so in a more slow, sustainable type way. And if you do enough of those things, you can actually start to raise your baseline level. And that will then make you feel more focused, motivated, and satisfied just generally, even when you're not necessarily doing anything that is particularly exciting. So the takeaway really is that it is not about avoiding dopamine. It's really just trying to teach your brain where is best to get it from. So how does this all affect motivation and work? Well, the thing is that if you are constantly chasing these more fast dopamine hit type things, so that scrolling social media or checking your messages all the time or doing too much gaming, your brain starts to expect instant gratification all the time. But when it comes to work, you don't get that instant gratification, because working on a report or preparing a presentation or learning to code or doing these difficult things, they are more slow releasing dopamine things, and so you're not getting that quick hit from them. But the thing is that if your brain becomes too used to looking for that instant gratification, when it doesn't get it, it starts getting distracted and instead will start looking for easier things to do. As well as that, over time, too much of those quick hit dopamine things can actually start to lower your baseline level of dopamine. And that's bad, because then your motivation levels will just generally be worse, and you might actually start finding it harder to just start tasks and be productive and efficient once you are even doing things. And so the fix isn't really more discipline or anything like that. It is more about trying to rebalance your dopamine levels so that your brain actually wants to focus again. So how do we look to actually control our dopamine levels? Well, the first thing to do is to try to reduce the amount of fast dopamine habits. And how I describe fast dopamine habits are things that really require no real effort, but they do give you this quick, intense bout of pleasure, but then afterwards will make you feel worse. So if we look at some examples of this, one could definitely be social media. Every time you scroll, your brain is getting that mini hit of dopamine. Or multitasking, every time you multitask onto something else, your brain's getting a little hit of novelty. Or eating junk food, that's a short-term bout of pleasure, but then a long-term crash. And so the takeaway really is to just try to be mindful about the amount of these fast hit dopamine habits that you might be doing in your life, and ultimately try to reduce them as much as possible. The second thing to do is to try to add more slow dopamine habits. So these are the things that actually over time can raise your baseline level of dopamine so that focus feels easier and motivation feels more natural. The thing with these things though is that they do require effort to achieve, but they will give longer lasting rewards and benefits. So some examples of this are to exercise regularly. After you exercise, you will get an increase in dopamine, but you will also literally improve your dopamine receptor sensitivity, which will then make it more easy for your brain just to enjoy life more normally. Deep focused work is also a good thing to do. I mean, really just try and focus in for like 45 minutes to an hour, because that will then teach your brain to associate effort with reward. And then intentional like rest type activities are also good. So that could be things like journaling or meditation or just walking outside in nature, because these types of things will help your brain to reset its dopamine levels more naturally. So if you can achieve that combination of reducing those fast dopamine habits and increasing the amount of slow dopamine habits, you should be able to be far more in control of your dopamine levels, and over time that baseline level should increase, which will then enhance both your focus and your motivation. I hope you found this video interesting. Thank you very much for watching it, and I'll see you in the next one.